Yeah, okay, all set up.
Sweet.
Cool. So you are?
I am Mitchell Wallstad. I teach lead 1961 at the University of Minnesota, and Gavin is one of my students in my class, one of my excellent students. So.
And this is a leadership class?
Yeah, it's the first of 4 courses in the leadership minor that goes through personal leadership, so thinking about values, self-awareness, leadership theory, systems, and how those things play together to make sure that you have a sense of how you want to lead and have time to reflect on that.
And I think you mentioned this briefly in class, but I'm also curious, like your job history? So you worked in the political system first?
So right out of undergrad, I went and worked at the state senate for 2.5 years, from 2019 to 2021, which is just totally normal time in history with COVID and George Floyd being murdered in Minnesota and all of those things at once politically. So was there. I managed a campaign in 2020 as well for the state house. Managed the state senate campaign from 2021 to 22. I went back to grad school in the fall of 22 until 2024 in the spring, so about 2 years there. And during grad school, worked in admissions, and then after grad school, about 8 months later, ended up in this job here. So some political stuff, some higher education things, and then lots of little things here and there for volunteering.
Managing a campaign for somebody who's running for office?
Yeah, so it's actually it's a lot more low-key than you think it is, or it sounds like it is. So I have been working at the Senate for maybe 2 months. And someone I was acquainted with from politics in my hometown in Apple Valley approached me and said, hey, there's a really cool candidate running for office in Lakeville, South Metro, that that needs a campaign manager. We think you'd do great because you're working at the Senate. And I'm 23. I have literally barely I've volunteered on one campaign during undergrad as a intern who did, I had not very much. Do you want to manage this campaign? And I'm I remember sitting outside of Bread and Chocolate on Grand Avenue in St. Paul.
A coffee shop?
It's a coffee shop in St. Paul near where I was living, talking to this woman on the phone. And I'm do you want me to? I was are you sure? She's yeah, our mutual friends say you're great and you do a great job. And I'm I don't know what they're talking about, but cool, I'll do it. I'll say yes. We did not win that campaign, which that's not my fault. It was in a uphill battle for that race. So the candidate I managed for, Erin Priest is her name. Awesome person, teacher in Lakeville, and works with Moms Demand Action, which is a gun violence prevention nonprofit, running as a Democrat in Lakeville against the Republican incumbent who had been winning by 10% in previous elections. So we whittled down the margin. He won by, got more people to vote for Democrats, but she still won, she still lost that election. She ran a second time after that and lost as well.
So what position was this for?
State House. So those districts are about 43,000 people, somewhere in that range. So it pretty much encompassed the city of Lakeville, minus a few pieces of it. So I grew up about 10 minutes north.
So are those people that work with the mayor? Or
yeah, so the state political system can be a little confusing. So state legislators, they are not in the same office as the mayor. They usually will talk with the mayor of the city or cities they are part of, but they go on behalf of small districts to the Capitol in St. Paul. So it's essentially our state version of Congress, where for Congress you have about 850,000 people in your district. Ilhan Omar represents us in Washington, D.C., from Minneapolis and Hennepin County in general. Minnesota has its own version of that, where there are 67 districts that have senators, and each of those are split evenly in half, and they each send one representative, 134 total, to the state house.
And that's what she was running for, was to go be one of those 134?
Yep.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So, which I truly had no idea what I was doing. We learned she also had no idea what she was doing. We had a lot of amazing people, both from the campaign with the state party and from nonprofit organizations, and just community volunteers and awesome people helped us along the way. So I learned from her and from them, and also kind of figured it out as I went along too.
So is it how it works is it's those 134 representatives represent a district, the district votes, those representatives align with what the district votes for, and then those people go to our person is Ilhan Omar.
Yeah.
That person aligns with what the whole state votes for? In theory, or not really?
Kind of. In theory, maybe. In practice, no. Okay. So I'll give the U of M, for example. So Lakeville's 40,000 people. For us, the University of Minnesota area, students who live on and near campus into like Prospect Park and into Como, they're represented by one representative. His name's Mahmoud Noor. Representative Noor has been in office for, I think, about 8 years now, maybe longer. So he goes from our community of about, again, 43,000 people and goes to the Capitol. He is a committee chair on, I should know, but I don't. One of the, I think it might be Health and Human Services Committee, but he has a committee chair posting where he's responsible for one policy issue for the whole state, but we elect him over and over again to go there. So he's also advocating for our individual needs and interests as like university students. He represents a large Somali population in Cedar Riverside. There's a lot of older folks who live in Prospect Park as well, and a lot of renters. So he has all these different interests that he's bringing to different votes at the Capitol, but he also has his own separate work, which is focused on a policy area. So it's confusing as you get into different layers of it, unless you're like there watching it. But he represents us. Erin could have been one of those people doing that from Lakeville, where she might have been on the education committee, for example, where she was running saying, I support these things with public schools. She might go do that work. But then if someone in Lakeville needed help figuring out how to get a license for their small business they're starting, they might contact her office, and then she would connect them with resources, or her staff would, throughout the state government. So, and then that's what I did when I worked at the Senate. Was I represented the senator from Uptown area. His name's Scott Dibble. He's awesome. He's still there. If I don't know where to look for this, but his name's Scott Dibble. He's wonderful. I actually don't know which committee he's chairing right now. He might be chairing the taxes committee. He's been involved in transportation policy for a very long time. And he's one of our only queer legislators. And he had a big constituent focus in his work, which all legislators should, but he was particularly responsive to the needs of his community. So I had a lot of people who would contact me, and on behalf of him, I would help connect them with unemployment insurance, or help them navigate the state government, hear their concerns, and make sure that he was aware of what people cared about. So I've seen it play out from the campaign side, but also from the legislative side in that way, because they look very different when you're campaigning and asking for votes versus when you're in office and people need things from you. It's a much different type of interaction and relationship. So.
And that was when you worked like sort of into transportation for politics? Yeah,
that was when I was never working on the committee proper, because the Republicans were in control of the legislature at that point in time. So my boss, Scott, was on the committee, and I would support him in that work, and I learned a lot about it, but I was never in charge of any of that policy, or never had ownership of the actual committee itself. But I learned a lot about transportation policy in that time, and I think it's very interesting. There's lots of, it's not the sexiest version of policy, where you're like, oh, how much do we tax you for the tab on your license every year to renew it? But there's actually a lot of really cool implications from how you go about doing that taxing that impact people differently. So it's always an important conversation.
Like, it's not the stuff people think about when they think politics, but it's like kind of necessary.
Yeah, you think like abortion, and you think climate change and whatever else. And then, that's happening, and those are the things that usually get news coverage. But then you're there and you're talking about like, well, should we do taxes based on how much the car weighs, or how much the car costs, or a different formula of these things? And there are reasons that different legislators want different things, right? If you represent a bunch of people who have F-150s, you might not want it to be based on weight. But those are also not cheap cars. So like, how are you making sure that you're like, people who have pickup trucks maybe for business or their life in rural areas are not being overtaxed, but at the same time, like, we're from a progressive standpoint, like, we want to tax Teslas and things that are really expensive more, because you can afford more in taxes. So, and if it's based on weight, the Teslas are very low taxed, which I don't think is necessarily fair. But the other argument might be, well, the Tesla doesn't make that much of an impact on the road, so why are we taxing them as high, because they're not doing that much damage to the road like a semi-truck or an F-150 might. And it, like, you get into it, you're like, no, this all makes sense, right? I disagree with like your choice here, but like, I completely understand your logic, and you have sound logic and different values that are informing that logic. So, which feels different than some policies that we talk about.
Are those things that each like city can choose to do how they tax cars like that? That's not like a state or countrywide thing?
I actually don't know all the details of how cities can do, or like municipal areas or counties can do different transportation taxes, but like a tab for renewal on your license plate, that is a state policy. So the state says you go to the DMV and you have to do it this way, and you're taxed at this rate. And that can be different in different states. Some states have tolls. So like when you're on a tollway, you're paying to use the road as like your kind of your contribution to keeping that road in good repair. And then we have different taxes here that are not on cars, but like the metro area, the 7-county metro in the Twin Cities, which is Hennepin County, where Minneapolis is, Ramsey County, where St. Paul is, and then the 5 suburbs that kind of wrap around those. They recently implemented a small sales tax across the entire metro area that goes towards transit funding.
Okay.
So
like public transit?
Public transit, yes. I forget what dollar or what cent amount. It's either a half cent or a full cent. But for every dollar spent in that area, there is a portion of it that is taxed and goes to transit. So let's say it's a half cent. It might, again, I don't actually know if it's a half cent or a full cent. I was not part of the decision on that. But if you buy your $5 coffee at Border Town Coffee down the street, you're paying a 5-cent tax essentially.
Or 2.5 cents.
Yeah, or 2.5 cent tax or whatever it is to go towards bus infrastructure, which is a newer thing passed that will see a lot more. It will cause a lot more transit to pop up in the metro area throughout the next several years and decades, because we'll have a reliable funding source to make sure it happens.
Do you have any idea of how much that will raise? Because in my mind, it's like, I guess I don't know how much money is spent every day, but like a cent here and there, if I'm spending an average of like $15 a day on food or something, feels like it's not that much money.
It adds up fast.
I bet.
And I don't know the actual dollar amount. I would, if it was my job to know it, I would know, but I don't right now because I'm working teaching instead. But no, it adds up very fast to make sure that you have just that constant trickle of money coming in.
Right.
That it's a reliable, like we know how much money is going to be spent generally across a county or across an area on an annual basis. You can kind of predict what funding you have for those projects. So. And there are arguments for and against that, and there's arguments for and against it from both Democrats and Republicans. And it's just like, I just think it's such an interesting example of how little changes, like how do we tax your coffee or your license plate or whatever, could have huge impacts. And you have to really think through why those things are happening. So I think it's a big relationship also to like the class content here, and doing systems thinking and thinking about how you approach the world in general. Is if you're not taking the time to learn, like, how do I engage deeply in critical thinking? How do I hear other people's perspectives? How do I understand why we might differ in perspective? You get to that point where you're arguing about, should an F-150 or a Tesla have higher tax rate? And then you're just like, you're butting heads because you can't see past your own viewpoint to understand why someone else might have a different one, which is where I think really good policy making comes in, is because like when you're like, nope, I understand you, and I know why we disagree. And now we can have the real conversation of like the values difference that we have and why we're taxing this, not just the impact of what we do. So it's part of the reason why I like this work, is it really aligns with the I think my version of politics, which is very wholesome, hopefully bipartisan in a lot of ways, and bringing people together, because we need a lot of that right now.
Yeah, that is interesting, because I don't know where I would be on that, like the F-150s versus Teslas, because I agree with both of those things, that like the F-150s, a lot of people drive them who don't even need them. They just drive it because they like the status of having a giant car, and they damage the road more, so they should be taxed more. But like probably people who drive Teslas have a higher, on average, income than people who drive F-150s. Yeah. It's like, I guess, what do you do there? Because there's ups and downs of both. Yep,
and again, it's like which values are winning out in the decision-making process there. So yeah. But that's why I love policy making so much. Is I think we like to think it's all about fighting and being right, but it's not. When you get into it, it's really about knowing people and knowing why they may have the belief they have, and then kind of cutting through the bullshit of like, we have to disagree. It's like, no, we might have a difference we can't bridge in one policy area, and then all the others were like, we can actually find a lot of things that we can work together on here.
I guess in a similar vein of knowing people, kind of, is talking about Pokemon. Have you been playing ZA, the newest one?
I love that game. I think it's fantastic.
I've been playing it too.
Okay, what does your team look like right now?
Let's see if I can remember. I chose Feraligatr,
Yeah.
and then I got the Bulbasaur. So I
Yeah.
have Feraligatr, Venusaur, Hawlucha. I have a Dragonite, a Garchomp.
Yep.
Is that 5?
Yeah.
A Chandelure.
Okay. Chandelure.
We
can work with
Chandelure is
that.
one of my favorite Pokemon.
We can work with that. Yeah. It's a very boy team, and that's okay.
Yeah, definitely.
You deserve
It
that.
definitely is.
I think I've played. Oh God, it's been out for a month. I think I'm on my 4th playthrough.
Really? Okay. You've had more time to play than I have.
No, I do think as a college professor, I have more time than my students. I have more free time than my students do, absolutely. And this month's been very quiet for me overall. So, and I took 2 days off of work to play it when it came out.
Nice.
So I started with Chikorita the first time.
Okay.
Love Meganium.
Yep.
I had a Delphox on my first team, Ampharos, a few others. I did a second playthrough that I mirrored. Did you ever play Pokemon Sapphire, Ruby, Emerald?
I played Sapphire.
Yeah. Do you remember Wally from that game?
Yeah.
So I based my team off of what I think Wally would have in this version. So I had Gardevoir and Gallade, which was very fun. And but the green hair was kind of a bummer because I wanted Wally green hair, and there was no Wally green hair to have. So then I played a game that was I did it based on Claire, the gym leader from Generation 2, who has Dragonite, Kingdra, all that type of stuff. And this one I'm going through, I'm just trying to. I have 5 Pokemon that I'm aiming for, and then I want to find whatever first shiny I have. I'll be on my team. But I think Lucario, absolutely the coolest in this game. Watching him run around with me in battle, I'm like, yeah, that's what I need.
Yeah.
So
I think it's super cool that they've been able to like finally make the Pokemon like run around with you, which the whole separate conversation about like the Pokemon company itself. Like the games are super fun.
Yeah.
But I do almost feel like guilty playing them just because I feel like the Pokemon company knows that they can get away with low quality games. Compared to other stuff that Nintendo puts out, like Breath of the Wild and what's the Tears of the Kingdom?
Yeah.
Like those are like beautiful games. They're like, I haven't played them very much, but just compared to what Pokemon is.
Yeah, I think it's the fan base difference too. I'm also a huge Zelda fan. I've played most of the Zelda games. Zelda fans like myself, I expect a game about every 4 years or so. I think Tears of the Kingdom was even longer than that between Breath of the Wild. Like the main series games, that was my sophomore year of college. And then it was again not until I was 25 or 26.
Because I think Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild came out with the Switch 1 was like 2018.
Yeah, it was the flagship. 2017, 2018 in there. Yeah. Zelda fans expect a really good game every so often. I think if Pokemon tried to make that switch and release a game in 4 years, people would they wouldn't be okay with it, right?
You think so?
I think there's too much. People want. I think people might think they want that, or the fan base as a whole might. But I think what they really want is a higher frequency of games, where like we have a game or two every single year, right?
Yeah.
Zelda does not get that treatment. Yeah. Next year we're gonna have maybe 3 games for Pokemon, which will be really interesting.
In 1 year?
Yeah.
Really?
Wind and Wave are going to come out.
Yep, I've heard of that one.
Which are the Gen 10 games. The Pokemon Animal Crossing thing's going to come out. It's like Pokopia.
Oh, yeah.
And then they might be doing a remake. It's their 30th anniversary, so it's kind of like I watch Pokemon YouTube videos like of people like doing the fan theory of why and how will Pokemon games be released, and I love that shit. It's so good. Cool. So yeah. What was your first step into Pokemon?
That's actually a really good question, because I don't know. Because I remember I used to play the card game, but then I just started like collecting the cards just because I like the art and stuff, and it's a fun hobby, which is kind of being ruined by scalpers and stuff. But it was either the cards or Omega Ruby. Okay. No, Omega Ruby's the red one. Sapphire's the blue.
Yeah,
Alpha Sapphire. It was either Alpha Sapphire or the card game. Okay. Because I remember I got a 2DS when I was younger, and I played Alpha Sapphire, X, then Moon, and then I think I doubled back and like started playing Sun. Yep. Ultra Moon, and then I've just like played every game since then.
I love knowing that. I love that people are getting into the series not at its inception. I think I played my first Pokemon game when I was 6, which was Pokemon Crystal on my Game Boy Color. So, which I'm like, I'm not old. I feel old. So when I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Some neighbor friends down the street from me had, I think they had Pokemon Stadium on the N64, just like a turn-based game where you draft
I know a
Pokemon.
little bit about it, but
And then that was the same time as Crystal came out. So I played Crystal, went back and played Red afterwards.
Okay.
And I have played every single release since Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald as it came out. Like I would, and I've unfortunately owned every game, not just Sapphire or Ruby, but I bought Sapphire, Ruby, and Emerald and played all of them differently. Because before you could have save files, right? You had to have different cartridges.
You just had the little cartridge. Yeah.
So I would just be like, oh, I'll just play 3 different times on 3 different cartridges. So so that was, it's my whole childhood was just Pokemon or thinking about Pokemon or walking around the woods pretending I had Pokemon. Just love it. It's the best.
Yeah. I think it would be super cool if they were like real. That's what I would always think about when I was like a little kid. I would like, please, it would be so cool. But
give us 20 years and we're going to have VR headsets.
Yeah.
We're going to be like walking around in Pokemon. Like that's going to be awful for our mental well-being. But just like seeing
Pokemon VR games?
Yeah, I think virtual reality is going to hurt us as a society as a whole, I think, because like how do you maintain happiness in the real world when you can just escape to a world that's like
because there could become a point
utopia.
where it's like people just like value their virtual life more than their real one.
Yeah, makes me scared, and I don't care. I will play Pokemon. I will play VR Pokemon. I will do that. If it is presented to me, I will take it. I'll be like, yep, I'll run around there, and then I'll figure out the consequences after that.
Right.
I'll be 50 by then, so I'll hopefully have a sense of stability and mental well-being at that point in time. So outside of Pokemon, what other things do you get nerdy about? What are your nerd interests? If that's considered nerdy. I guess it's pop culture now, but I still think of it as a nerd interest.
I would say it's nerd stuff, but yeah. I don't really know if I have any actually that's not true. I watch some anime.
Nice.
My roommate and I are watching, do you know Demon Slayer?
I've heard of it, but I've not watched it before.
I've already seen it and he hasn't, so we're kind of like going back and I'm introducing him to that and he's enjoying it, so yeah.
I've not been a huge anime person historically, but I understand the appeal of it. I just, I don't like watching things. I'm not much of a TV or movie person. Me neither.
I kind of got, like, I watched anime a little bit, but what like kept me into it is when I started like running on the treadmill and stuff, like I would watch that, and like there's the genre like which is called shonen. I think it like translates to like young men, so it's like targeted at young men, so it's like a lot of like fighting and stuff like that. So that stuff's like kind of like motivating, like when the character's like I have to keep going and I'm running on the treadmill, it's like I have to keep going. Yeah, so that I kind of, that's like really all I watch. I watch YouTube. I don't really not really a movie or like a sit down and watch Netflix person. It just, YouTube is my show of choice.
I know, which it's so when I was in middle school, YouTube was huge, and I feel like as I went through high school and college, YouTube still was a big deal, but everyone was watching either movies or streaming shows and things. Yeah. And some people have kept going with that. I think I've circled back to YouTube at this point. I'm like, I just watch my little videos, which might be an attention span thing. I don't know. Right. Which I don't love that, but I'm also not really on social media, so I don't know if it's that for me. But I feel like I just don't. There's something about the content that I keep seeing on Netflix right now or whatever other streaming service that just feels it feels manufactured. It's like it feels cheap and fake in some ways that are just not engaging. Yeah. The way that I feel like I watched like Game of Thrones when it came out, I was like, that that like captivates me and gets me very into it.
Like I guess I never developed that habit. So unless I like hear of a show being like people saying this is super good, I have like no desire to even like look for a show to watch. Yeah, and I prefer a video game because I'm doing something. Like a show, I feel like I'm vegetating. I'm just like sitting. Yeah. And I'm physically doing the same thing for a video game, but my thumbs are also moving, right? At least there's some level of interaction. My brain feels more engaged, which is not everyone's cup of tea, which is totally fair. So curious, what? No, I'm turning your questions back at you. When you're thinking about classes on a university campus, I know like we try and hold our class spaces somewhat more informally and like conversationally. Do you see elements of like this type of class in your other spaces on campus? Is this unique to what you're seeing elsewhere? Like our class? Yeah. What do you mean? Like, do you know your peers in other classes? Do you feel like you have a chance to voice your opinion in the same way you do? I think I'm in actually a unique situation where I don't have a single class this semester that I've never had a single exam.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, I'm in an honors seminar, so that's like pretty much entirely discussion based. My like intro to fisheries and wildlife biology class, that's like, it's the formatting of that is kind of strange. We like read cases and look at cases, and then we have to like discuss them in class. And then my astronomy class is like the big assignments are group projects and stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, so most of my classes, ironically, the honor seminar is like the one I know my classmates in the least. It's kind of a quiet class.
Yeah.
I'm saying I'm like kind of in that space between like acquaintances and friends with definitely my astronomy group. Like I would say hi to them if I see them in public. But
Yep.
like my fisheries people, I'd probably just like shoot a wave.
Yeah, I'd be like, I'm going to acknowledge that you exist.
Yeah.
Because it'd be awkward if I don't. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad to hear you have some like probably smaller classes too, more community feel in classes. I know that's not like necessarily standard first year experience.
And I think it helps because I'm in the honors program. So those smaller classes, because the astronomy I'm in is the honors version, and that's like specifically an honors seminar.
Okay.
So yeah.
And you have not decided what you're going to do for your major yet?
Well, I talked to my advisor, and I'm thinking I'm going to do food science.
Okay.
But I'm still technically undecided because I'm like still figuring out. I want to study abroad, so I have to kind of incorporate that, and then incorporate this minor, and possibly like a nutrition double major or minor. So my advisor was like, we'll keep you undecided. In the coming semesters, we'll kind of figure out exactly what we want to do. Then you can be like declared.
That sounds like a good advisor to me, to be able to help set you up for multiple pathways that you can choose. You can just narrow which one's the right one as you go throughout undergrad. Yeah, I feel like my biggest regrets about undergrad were feeling like I needed to be too linear, too focused in just one direction, which like, of course, that helped me get the jobs that I had after undergrad. So like two sides of the same coin, like is that good or bad? But it made me more stressed all the time. So it's nice to have some openness and enjoy the experiences that come to you, because it's a really unique time to be like, just put so much information in front of your face. Like you could do this or you could do this, and you can talk to this person, or like we have people from across the entire world in your like little bubble, which is not true anywhere else in really like most of the US. Most places, like your university campuses are your international hotspots, and then maybe some major cities like New York, for example, or but even like I like throughout Minneapolis, there's different pockets of immigrant communities that are like fantastic. My neighborhood has more folks from South America, especially like Ecuador and Peru, and also it's like a contained perspective. Like I have some folks who have different backgrounds than I do. Where on campus, you're like, I could talk to someone from, we have a really large population from Uzbekistan on our campus. Not really large, but proportionally large. So
I think my CA is from Uzbekistan.
Yeah, it makes sense. And like you're not. There's not like an Uzbek community hiding elsewhere in Minneapolis, right? So it's really interesting to be able to hear people's lived experiences and perspectives from across the world, and have that be part of your education too.
That's why I'm so dead set on like, I want to make sure I can fit studying abroad into my program.
Yes.
Because I feel like I grew up in a very, very white neighborhood where my house is 30 minutes away from here. I just think it's going to be like super valuable and also fun to just like experience like a different part of the world.
Yeah, I never studied abroad during undergrad, and I don't regret it because the things I did instead were worth the compromise. But I've tried to make up for that experience as an adult by going places by myself for a smaller period of time. But
have you been doing that?
Yeah, I traveled around the U.S. by myself for a bit to like help get myself familiar with that type of travel. And last year I was in Mexico for just 2 weeks, but by myself, Mexico City, and then somewhat rural Oaxaca in southern Mexico, to essentially just experience what is it like to, one, use my Spanish skills, which are fine, good enough. But like be somewhere new, learn about an entirely new culture, and I really enjoyed the experience and actually made several friends while I was there. And this coming summer, I am planning on going to South America for a hot minute, probably 5 or 6 weeks.
Okay, cool.
Spending 2 or so weeks in Brazil, and probably a month between either Argentina or Peru at some point, just to like, there are areas that have really gorgeous natural scenery, but also really vibrant urban communities that I would like to understand. Like, what does it look like to exist in Sao Paulo or in Rio, and just, I don't know, almost get a taste of what that life can be like. So the way I like to travel is very much try and meet people, make friends, have coffee with a person or two who are open to like talking to a stranger from a different country, and just engaging in like an exchange of ideas and understanding of the world. Hopefully doing America some service abroad too, by being a good, respectful visitor. So I try my best at least.
I think that's a super cool thing to be able to like have that confidence to go up and kind of engage with people in public. I hope to be able to like develop that skill more, like that confidence to like sit down and like ask a stranger, do you want to sit down and have an intellectual conversation with me?
Yeah.
And have that, because you're definitely going to get denied a couple times.
Yeah. And I will say this is, studying abroad, you have forced opportunities for that to happen, which is super helpful.
Yeah.
As a student, you have like, it's so easy to use the student card, as I call it, to get in the door with the conversation with someone. It's very compelling to people. And a lot of my conversations start at a bar where I'm like, because it's a social place, right? Where I'm like, oh, you seem great. Would you want to get coffee while I'm here? Right? That type of request. And a lot of people say no to that, but a fair number of people also say yes, which is really, really cool. So I'm always surprised by the generosity and just goodness of people overall. I think people are fantastic. I think we're taught to not be fantastic in some ways, but like I think all of us deep down have all of that, that care and compassion for each other, which is it's cool to see it play out across multiple countries and hopefully around the world throughout my life.
One thing I wanted your thoughts on was like how AI is so quickly becoming so prevalent. I guess I can offer my thoughts first. I like am very against like the use of AI and like schoolwork and stuff. I think it just like kind of rots your brain. Like I just think depending on AI to do critical thinking like that is like gonna destroy us. And it pisses me off when I see people in class like I can understand using it to like help you create like a study guide or do things like that you could do but would just be time consuming and it's not like critical thought. But like basic questions that you have to like put like questions that literally are meant to like challenge your thinking and be about what are your thoughts on this, you're just like destroying your brain.
Yeah, I think the important question is why. I actually had this conversation in my class last semester, I think it was, at the urging of my direct supervisor, who's fantastic. Why do students cheat? Why do you use AI? Why do you engage in academic dishonesty? And if we drill down really far, it's this sense of students have been taught over years and years of public education that it's more important to get points than it is to learn. And that there should be fear around being wrong. So if you have this tool that will help you get points and make you not seem wrong, it's almost like students have not been taught to think. Students have been taught to think, but they have also been taught to figure out how to get the answer as fast as possible and do the work. And if your thought process is I want points and I don't want to be wrong, AI makes a ton of sense. Because it's right there and it can help you manage a busy workload. Now there's almost nothing in my class that AI would work for, because I'd be able to read it and be like, that's not your thought. Because I have the benefit of knowing all of you in the class and I know how you write and think and speak. So if I see something out of character, then it's like, okay, we need to have that conversation. But I understand why it's tempting. I agree that it can reduce critical thinking. And I think there are places where it can be beneficial, but how do we engage in productive, like boundary setting on AI, right? Like creating a study guide, I think a great use for it. Helping, sometimes I have to do like bulk data set, not for this job, but for like different political things. I'll have to like look through a bulk data set of names or something, and I can use AI for that purpose to figure out what things are coming up in multiple places. It's like a simplified version of me actually understanding how Excel works, because I don't. I do it a little bit, but so it can be a tool that can help cut down a lot of like task-oriented time that I think is really helpful. But that's not how it's being used or talked about.
I think that's why I enjoy thinking like about politics and philosophy, because it's not like there's not a right answer. It's about like engaging with other people and like just like expressing thoughts. But also, aside from that, how would you say like you could navigate that sort of philosophy that students are taught to get the right answer and like do it as fast as possible when it's not a class like this where it's something like what I'll be doing next semester, like chemistry, where it's like there is kind of a right answer. The formula has to be this way. Like you kind of have to know the right answer because you kind of have to know chemistry if you're going to go into chemistry.
Yeah, I think I might leave that one to the chemistry instructors in the department to answer. My thoughts for my class though, like students will, this semester I don't think I've seen any cases of y'all trying to use AI, which is great. I also think that I made it pretty clear day one. I'm like, that's the only way you're probably going to fail this class is if you use AI. So previous semesters I have had to approach students about incidents, and even with things I'm like, this is supposed to be your thinking. And those experiences have changed how I hold my class space because I want everyone to be like, to understand that the most important thing you can do here is learn and push your understanding. And for the type of class we're in, that's more perspective based, that is more like you reckoning with your own thoughts and me kind of being a guide to give you information to help do that. I don't know if it's appropriate to penalize in any way, right? Where like the university makes me give a grade to all of you, but I don't want to have to make you jump through hoops to get that grade. I want to have you there engaging in conversation and learning because you want to be there and because you trust that I want you to do that. So that's how I've responded to AI, is by really stepping back and looking at how do I hold my class space and questioning everything I do that might cause a student stress. Okay, the lights just went off. I try and think about like every single thing that I could do that could cause stress in someone's life, or at least with assignments, and why that might motivate them to use AI or cheat in a different way or not put in the effort or not learn, right? So I have to be critical of myself before I can start being critical of everyone else after that. So I take some personal responsibility. I don't know how the university and others are going to navigate that question because it does look very different in like a chemistry setting. What I hope students think about is you're paying for this. It's such a tired excuse, but like you're paying for this, like, and you're here to learn. And if I talk to your professor and call them out. If you feel like you can't approach them or that they're not helping you learn, like that is a problem for the university to fix with your instructor. You should be able to get through every single one of your classes, feel supported, and learn what you need to learn and move on. If that's not happening, like I don't want you to use AI. I don't want you to cheat. And it's not like you're a bad student, right? There is something else happening here that is causing this. So just take and send a healthy amount of blame to other people, right? Blame your chemistry professor, no offense, chemistry department. Blame whoever it is that's not listening to you, right? And then get into conversation with them about why it's not working for you, which is way easier said than done, but that's my
So would you would say that like students using AI excessively stems from like stress?
I think so.
Yeah.
My brain can go in like 20 different systemic routes right now where some students are at the university because they have been told that you have to go to college. So you were like, I'm going to get a degree. I don't really want to do this work, but I want a job on the other side that pays well, right? Yeah. And AI can be a tool to get there. So maybe it's lack of care for some situations, but I think overall it's stress, right? It's stress, and it's the sense of how we penalize students. If you think you are not good enough because you receive a lower grade, then you're going to start to act like you're not smart. Like you're not going to think you're smart enough to do the things. Yeah. Which is like this is somewhat related to my grad capstone paper, not focused on AI, but focused on standardized tests. But if any signals you give to young people that tell them that they are inadequate or not smart enough can be just deeply, deeply internalized. So getting low grades and then having a solution to not getting low grades, it feels very tempting if you feel stressed about either your workload or about your perception of intelligence for yourself too. So yeah, I don't excuse it. I don't think it's a good thing. And like I understand why any student might reach that decision to say, I have too much going on. These deadlines are not flexible. I have to get everything in, and I'm gonna use this tool to get all of the things in on time, right? Which we can also question. So there's just so many layers of why do I act the way I do? It is a lot of this conversation.
I think I would agree with that, but I would also posit that part of it is because of like how our culture has become so fixated on getting like quick hits of dopamine and stuff, like with short form content and things like that. I think a lot of discomfort comes from like having to really struggle and critically think through like a challenging calculus problem or a challenging like chemistry problem. And I think it's a lot easier to then, rather than to sit with that frustration and discomfort, like to just like turn to AI and like have it like get you like that extra 50% to the answer.
Yep, which also can be done in classes like our class. I've seen students not want to sit and grapple with like the failure essay, for example. Like, how do I think about a professional failure or a personal failure I had and really pick it apart and see how I could have thought about it differently? There's a sense of like, oh, that's hard work. And like, yeah, it is. Like, I'm not asking my students to do easy things. I'm asking my students to do difficult things because I have really bright, amazing students. And all the students across the entire university are fantastic, right? And are capable of doing those really difficult things. And society doesn't always reinforce that message of like, you are brilliant and you are capable of all of this. So I just want to like not shake every student, but in a way I want to shake the university, but like tell them, like let them know that they're great. So I think it's very important. With your now privilege of hindsight on what it means to be starting college, what would you want a freshman starting college to know? And then what would you want your professors to know about being in your first semester of college? One for students, one for professors, or university staff, leadership, whoever is helping students through this whole thing.
I guess for freshmen coming in, I guess I would say, like, really make sure to explore your options, because like that's why I'm so like hesitant to pick a major, because I want to make sure I'm truly happy doing what I'm gonna do, because it's gonna be what I'm doing for probably the next 50, 55 years. Yeah, I guess I would say, like, even after you've like picked your classes, look through your options, try to be like on top of like knowing what your options are for classes and things like that, and just try to pursue like different things. Because like I took this class because it was it fulfilled an honors requirement. But also because it sounded a little bit interesting, and I ended up really liking it, and I'm going to try and do the leadership minor now. So I guess that's what also I would say is, like, consider all your options and try like things that sound fun.
I take that. And also keep in mind, your major might not be what you do for the next 50 to 55 years or whatever.
Right.
So you have plenty of time to have life crises and change your mind along the way. So speaking from experience. And
I guess I would say to professors, I would say, I think most of my professors are pretty good about this. I have pretty lax professors, but I think from what I've heard from other people, it's just like, make sure that your students feel like people when they come into your class.
Yeah.
Which can be difficult if you're teaching a 300-person math lecture, but...
Yeah, it is. That is it. And it can also be difficult if you're not teaching a 300-person math lecture, right? Like, how do you, especially across generational differences, how do you relate? And I think, it's something I try to do. I try to do that very intentionally.
Yeah.
And I wish we could yell that to the whole university. Be like, remember, your students are also full human beings with complex emotions and a whole bunch of things happening in their life outside of your own classroom. I'll tell everyone that. We already work on that as a department. We try very, very hard to make sure that we see our students as people. I think we do a good job.
In a somewhat similar vein to what I was talking about, for me and people like me who I guess feel like they aren't fully set on what they want to do in the future, like who just don't know if they have like a set purpose or they're still trying to find it. I guess somebody who's made it through school, made it through grad school, you've been on the other side working a job for a couple of years that I think you enjoy, right? Like, what is some advice that you would have?
And lots, probably. So I got my undergrad major in political science, got my quote unquote dream job. It was the job I really wanted after undergrad, working for the specific senator I was working for. And I loved that experience. And also realized at some point in time that it was just not the right fit for me, even though it was everything I wanted. I was right to go into it, and I was right to leave it on the backside because of the lifestyle that it required of me. So then I'm in grad school, and not quite sure why I'm in grad school, but like, no, I want to teach this course, and then somehow end up being here as an adjunct for one semester, and then in this full-time as an adjunct instructor. So I hire about 20 some instructors who teach one section of this class, but have other full-time jobs.
Okay.
And then my full-time job.
So part-time professor.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And then ended up in this job from that, and it's been fantastic. And I find a lot of passion and joy here. I would like at the end of undergrad, I had no idea I would be here and enjoying this. And it's very possible that I stress about my future sometimes. I'm like, where am I going to end up? Like, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
I would like to like I'd like my salary to keep increasing. I want my influence to keep increasing. What does it look like? I might be somewhere in 5 years that I could not even put on a menu of possibilities right now. So I think that's really important to keep in mind. I think I kind of lost the plot on your question, actually.
That's right.
But just really understanding that your life is going to unfold in ways that you're not expecting it to, and to give yourself the flexibility to flow with that instead of resisting it.
Yeah.
Whenever I've resisted it, it's like life just keeps punching you until you give in, usually. It's like, okay, yeah, like that relationship wasn't for me, that job wasn't for me, that living situation wasn't for me, but this new one is, or this new one isn't in a different way, now I'm learning more. And it's like, yeah, we want there to be some type of, you finish college, you get a job, you get a house, maybe get married, and you sit there for 40 years. That's pretty uncommon, I find, in terms of how people experience life. And we should talk about it more, because then people are ready for it when it happens. So
almost, I guess from experience, I guess I would say I have a tendency to like treat life almost like it's rigid. Like once I pick this degree, it's what I'm going to be doing. Yeah. But you're kind of saying your advice would be like, remember that life is like fluid, like things are going to change, and you should like take those opportunities. Yeah, things are going to change. Be open to new opportunities, be open to being pushed along. Your entire in the US, our entire upbringing is conditioning us to fit into a system, right? Yeah. Schools, K-12 schools, very systemic. College is very systemic. A lot of jobs are very that way. And like, there's a lot of benefit to that in terms of how we run our society, how we get things done. Outside of your work, things are not that simple. Your relationships are not that simple. You don't go on 3 dates and then you become partners and then like there's not these predictable steps, right? Yeah. Like if anyone who's been in a relationship is able to see like, oh no, that moves around and it becomes difficult, and like, but you still care, and like that's happening in your living situation, your work. And you can't predict how the version of you're going to be in the future. So it becomes difficult to plan too far ahead. So yeah, I'd like be open to what life throws at you, and go to therapy. Everyone should go to therapy. Yeah. Truly, that's my best post-college, also during college advice. But go to therapy. That helps me immeasurably. Therapy and meditation make me a absolutely different, better version of myself. I would say better to myself version of myself. So. Do you just do like standard, like do you just sit and like close your eyes for like 5 minutes? I use the Calm app. Okay. I used Headspace during undergrad. I got really stressed during senior year writing my like big final paper in political science. And I would like sit in the courtyard near Nolte Center kind of, and Falwell Hall, and meditate with my big noise canceling headphones. And Headspace will give you like imagery to think about as you meditate. Calm I've been using is just like focus on your breath and like the sensation of breathing over and over again. So most mornings I sit for 20 minutes after I walk and exercise, and just meditate on my floor in my bedroom. So I think it's not an easy practice. Some days I do an awful job. That's what I've heard. And some days I do a great job. And even Tamara Levitt, who gives my narrations, I was like, however you did is okay, right? Like doing the practice is the whole point. So, and it does I feel like how do I say it? I'll just say it in the mean way. I feel better than everyone else, because I'm like, I know, right? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm taking care of myself today. So, and like, I'm not that competitive, but I'm like, that's like great. Like I took care of myself. So even if I feel, if I have a bad day, I know I've put in the effort to have less of a bad day. Yeah. So I think that's a lot of what it is. Like, that's why like I try to read and I try to go to the gym. It's like, it makes me feel good, but it also like gives you that I guess that external factor of it's like I feel like I'm doing something that like makes me a better person, and I guess that's comparative, and that might be unhealthy, but
yeah, it's a sense of control over your own life and
Yeah.
agency. So I think it's important. But yeah, meditation and therapy are those are my bedrock.
So you meditate with a narration? Because in my interpretation, I've heard like a lot of Eastern meditation is all about like trying to have nothing going on in your head, and like that's kind of like the end goal, and that like takes a really long time to master. But
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with the philosophy behind that type of meditation, and the way I think about it is becoming comfortable with your thoughts and letting your thoughts come and go. So
Right, yeah.
I will have moments where, like, I have an internal monologue going constantly. So even when I'm meditating, I'm like breathing in, and I'm usually counting while I do that, because there is going to be a word happening in my brain that's just like it's how I'm
can't turn it
wired,
off.
I think,
Yeah.
right? So, but instead of having it be full sentences of thoughts about things I'm stressed or upset about, it is 1, 2, and then back and forth over and over again, which is really hard to focus on just because eventually those numbers become almost meaningless at some point. But focusing on that and then how the breath actually feels. But then having 15 minutes and you realize, oh, I haven't had any thoughts about any actual like ideas. I'm just thinking numbers in my head. It feels like I get like goosebumps thinking about it. I just feel like light and lift and free in a lot of ways. So it's very, very nice. I've never had the experience where I can think of nothing though. I think that's a quite difficult place to get to. I don't think I can ever be there. I know myself well enough to know that this is how I'll do it. So
I suppose that's a good part of it too, is being able to know who you are and kind of adopt the practice to be useful for you. Because if you try and force it in the way that like it's, I guess, supposed to be done, it might not work for you, and then you're going to have a less productive result anyway.
Yeah, you can't be good or bad at meditation. It just is. You just do it. So you can feel bad about it, but you can't be bad at doing it. So I appreciate it a lot.
I can ask that question back to you that you asked a couple minutes ago.
Sure.
Like what advice do you have for undergrad people?
Oh, yeah. See, I don't want to give the canned typical advice of like, try everything. Okay, here's the actual advice. College is not the best 4 years of your life. If you want it to be and you don't want to engage in new experiences after undergrad, it could be the best 4 years of your life. But I think why people say that is because you're constantly forced into learning new situations. You're meeting a ton of people. You'll probably never meet this many people this quickly ever again. Or there's been people who will engage in a conversation with you at least. But it does not have to be the only good experience of your life. I made great friends in undergrad, and I've made more friends after graduating through work, through seeing my relationships not as transactional, but as people I can invest in and know, whether it's to have a good working relationship or on occasion you're like, oh, we really actually, we see each other and feel a sense of connectedness. Like we should get together for a meal or a drink or something. And then those can spark into really wonderful friendships. So college is not the best 4 years of your life. That's probably my favorite advice, because a lot of people get sad when they're finishing college because like, oh no, life's gonna just go downhill. No, what are you doing if you think every year is gonna be worse? That does not sound like fun. So that's one piece of advice I have. I think on a similar note is to try to get comfortable with failing more, which is maybe in line with how this class goes. Like, don't try and fail. Like, try to get good grades in your classes because that's helpful for you. But try to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like putting yourself, like asking someone in the field you want to go into to get coffee or talk. Right.
Yeah.
That is not a request that has no vulnerability involved. You can be rejected, but do it. Kind of like our go out and fail experiment in class, right? Which I know is on your YouTube channel because I watched. And like there, you can put yourself in situations where you just help desensitize yourself to this idea that you need to be perfect and know everything, because college is kind of reinforcing that at the same time. So you want to find ways to be a person, fail, like have messy experiences while still maintaining the like strong academic standard you have for yourself because you are paying a lot of money to do that. So how do you make those things live together at the same time is an important part of college. Your non-curricular experiences are also very, very important to take seriously and think of as learning.
Yeah. So the idea of like I want to do this thing. Oh, but I'm scared. Well, do it scared.
Yes.
Like you have to. That's a big thing. I feel like I've tried to teach myself and like remind myself of is that like nothing will change if nothing changes. Like you have to do things that are uncomfortable. You have to do things that are different if you want to see change. And like that's kind of why I wanted to do this. It's like I can't like do things that are different from other people unless I kind of take that uncomfortable step, take that initiative, and do something different.
Yeah, and we find a soft landing point too, right? Like in our class, some folks were talking about how do I make friends, right? Like that can be like one, join a student group to make friends. It's easy advice, but ask someone out to get coffee, right? And if you're really interested in someone you don't know, but you're like, I find you fascinating. Like I've heard you talk in class, we've never talked, but we could go get coffee. That's a bigger step to take. But if you're like, well, we've sat next to each other all semester, and I see you on Monday and Wednesday, and we chit chat. Why don't we like actually go learn about each other's lives outside of this 10-minute awkward period we have together, right? Yeah. That's a much easier risk to take that can set you up for the one where you're like, that person over there who I haven't talked to, that's like that can be a stepping stone in a way too. So risks are scary. Build up your risk tolerance in a smart way because you don't want to take a risk that terrifies you. And then the bad result happens you didn't want, and then you get totally averse to taking risks, right? So smart, safe risks are how I would think about it. And then when you feel ready for it, take the bigger risks. Like ask the person on the date that you want to ask on a date, and be ready for graceful rejection or whatever it is. And maybe you'll be surprised, and they were thinking about the same thing with you, right? Yeah. Or the asking a friend to get coffee, or asking is a huge piece of it. But like wanting someone from someone else is a very normal thing to have in the world. I think that can just be a huge barrier for people too. So yeah, take the risks.
Do you have a personal philosophy that you like live your life by?
So I really try and live a very values aligned life. So the more I know my values, the better for myself. The two values that whenever I do a values sort, they come up as like, well, those two are going to be there. Learning is always one. I'm just trying to learn from people, from books, from media, from whatever it is. I'm trying to learn. And then the top one is living with love, just in general. So from one of my programs I facilitated for a few years, I'm known for the phrase of, I love love. I think it's wonderful. I think if we all shed more of it, the world would be just a beautiful place, and could be a beautiful place if we believe we can do that. So I live by, I love love. And then I'm not a big quotes person, but there is a quote from an author named Annie Dillard that is, how we spend our days, of course, is how we spend our lives. And I try and think of that often when I'm looking for motivation or a sense of what is my life? Like, what am I doing? Because when you go through all of it, it's adding up to be the person you are on a consistent basis, not necessarily your one-time actions or events often. So I just try and remind myself to be that version of myself every single day, which is sometimes about kindness, sometimes it's about taking care of my health and well-being, sometimes it's about resting, sometimes it's about forgiving myself and letting myself be lazy, right? Yeah. It's not to say I always have to be productive, but it is to say I always have to treat myself and others the way that I want to be known for treating myself and others. Yeah. So it's kind of my one quote that I reference sometimes. Yeah. Do you have one? You're also in a developmental stage of life where that makes sense that you would be searching for that right now. Yeah. So
I guess that's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find it. Yeah.
Yeah. You won't, or you will. No. I reference the things, but I'm that's not the essence of me. I'll never be able to say what my core thing is, but I reference those 2 points.
Because it's often not that concrete.
No.
I'm not a monolith, so I can't really expect to live my life by this perfect ideal.
Yeah. You'll find things you latch onto that that resonates with me. I feel like I live that way, or I can share that as a part of myself. But yeah, as you said, you're a multifaceted human being capable of every emotion and great things and flaws and all that. It's really hard to encapsulate like a mantra all at once. But those two help center me when I feel a little bit off kilter.
Yeah. Do you have like any advice or a specific message that you would want to put into the world that you would hope that people would hear?
Take the leadership minor. No, it's similar to what I just said. It can be really hard to engage in loving kindness all the time. And I want everyone, I just think the world would be wonderful if we did and treated everyone like we wanted to be treated. Like it's such a simple, we all hear the golden rule.
Yep.
We all hear it. And it's there because it's a reminder like the world will never be that perfect. I don't think that's possible, but we don't get to abdicate responsibility and say we're not going to do it, right? So I find the more that I live with that and the more I see others live with that, the better the world feels. Yeah. So that's my hope, is everyone lives with kindness and respect for each other. Yeah. Boring, I know. So easy. And take the leadership minor. That's the other one I have. Yeah.
I mean, I suppose that's such a classic thing that people say, is I guess it's just because it's true, right?
I think there's something deeply human about it, where like you will hear that across the world, from across generations, cultures, experiences, and I say it because my life feels infinitely better when I do that, and I can tell when I'm living outside of that, and it like physically hurts. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are experiencing that physical pain without understanding maybe where it's coming from. It's my theory, and I don't know that to be true, but it feels true to me. Yeah. So,
like that almost like like a discontinuity, I guess from like their true self, or
yeah. We're made to love each other, and we're made to care about each other, and the world convinces us otherwise because we've built up these systems that make it difficult to do so.
Yeah. I think it's much easier to not have that philosophy when, like, especially since the internet, when you don't have to see like the people that you talk about. Like it's so much easier to speak ill of somebody, like when you don't have to see them face to face, I guess.
Yeah, or when you see the life that someone else is living that you don't have access to. It's like it's easy to have resentment and like I cannot blame people for having resentment, right? And when I feel that in myself, I try to work against it and say like, I don't have to think that's a good thing, but I can find other ways to have a good outlet of those types of more difficult feelings. So
yeah. Where I would struggle with that is, I guess I feel like there's some like situations in the world where I don't know if trying to have like a positive outlook on it would really solve anything.
Yeah, it's not gonna fix every.
Yeah.
Right. It's like it's inner peace in a way, where like being able to live with your own status or place in life. I say that at the same time as I actively try and make social change, right, all the time, to ensure everyone has access to the great things I've been able to have access to throughout my life, and. Yeah, that advice, I don't think it's advice. I just wish I wish everyone could live that way, I guess is the way I would say it. Yeah. It's not to say go out and be kind to everyone. Like you're going to have moments when you don't feel like you can do that. But in my world, I would love is everyone has access to that more often than they don't. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. A very, very unserious question.
Great. Great note to end on too. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you rather have unlimited bacon but no games? Are you familiar with this question?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. Would you rather have unlimited bacon but no games, or unlimited games but no games?
But no bacon?
No, but no games.
Wait. Unlimited games. Wait, say it again.
Would you rather have unlimited bacon
but
no games?
Right.
Or unlimited games but no games?
Unlimited games, but no games?
Yeah.
But there's no games in both options?
Is that confusing?